evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Troutdale Planning Commission for Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Wittrin,
Present.
Commissioner Woydilla,
Here.
Commissioner Mamoni.
Here.
Commissioner Prickett. Commissioner Prickett. Hey,
I'm here.
there we
I'm
go.
here.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I was muted.
No worries. Commissioner Wilcox,
Here.
Chair Stephenson.
Here. Okay, at this time, we will do pledge allegiance. And those of us that are at the Kellogg Room will stand.
And for those at home, you do not have to recite, we'll recite for you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay. And is there anyone wishing to speak to the Planning Commission this evening on a non-agenda item? Okay. And we have one item that we will go ahead and address now. Sandy Glanz will be leaving us and going to the City Council, effective in January. And so we will have to recognize her next month for all of the years that she's, what are you, 17?
Not that long, like 12, 13.
What? Okay. Sandy, you are a class act, and it has been an honor to work with you, and I think you've made all of us better. And thank you for your service to the city, and we look forward to working with you on the council.
Yes, you guys are ready.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And with that, Rich Allen will be appointed to fulfill Sandy's spot as the number 2 alternate. Okay? Any questions? All right. Did everyone receive a copy of the minutes from October 21st, 2020?
Yes.
Okay. Paul, did you have any corrections?
Oh, actually, I don't.
Okay.
Wow.
Let the record show Paul did not have any corrections. And did anyone else have any corrections?
I had a really minor one. Page 3, last paragraph. Ms. Glantz asked if staff would consider mixed use in other locations outside of urban, I believe it was designations.
Okay.
Might have been zones, something there.
Probably would be designation, wouldn't it?
Was it?
Which paragraph are you on again, Commissioner Glenn?
The last paragraph on page 3.
First sentence.
Oh, outside,
I believe it was
and what
designated
was your suggested edit again?
of urban designations.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Move to approve.
I move that we approve the minutes as written and amended.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Prickett, second by Commissioner Glanz to approve the minutes of October 21st, 2020 as amended. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that one carries. And now Okay. We will get into tonight's public hearing, and this is for case file LU 0018-2020, Sandy Rim subdivision. And before we open the public hearing, I would like to explain a little bit about the Planning Commission and the procedure we'll be following for tonight's public hearing. Planning Commission is an appointed 7-member body of volunteer citizens, members of the Planning Commission are Troutdale residents who've been appointed by the City Council. They serve 4-year terms, they're strictly volunteers, and receive no pay for their services. The Planning Commission serves as a citizen committee to review land use applications and various land use related matters within the city. Items which the Planning Commission considers include uses of land, subdivisions, major variances, land use policies, plans, and development regulations. For some land use applications, the Planning Commission makes a final decision. For other applications, they are simply making a recommendation to the City Council who renders the final decision. Quasi-judicial public hearings are held in accordance with Oregon law and procedures contained in the Troutdale Development Code. The hearing proceeds as follows. City staff will present their report, which includes applicable criteria and standards for the matter under consideration in the land use application. All testimony and evidence should be directed towards these criteria. If you believe that other criteria in the Comprehensive Plan Development Code or other city land use regulations apply, you must identify these criteria and explain why they apply to the decision. The Planning Commission accepts public testimony relating to the application. The applicant is allowed to speak first, followed by proponents, then by opponents, and then by any party neutral to the application. An opportunity will be provided to anyone testifying to clarify any issues raised. All issues raised by a participant during the public hearing must be sufficiently clear and specific to allow the Planning Commission and other parties an opportunity to respond to those issues. Failure to raise an issue during this public hearing may invalidate a future appeal based on that issue. Prior to the closing of the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony regarding the application. The Planning Commission must grant the request by either continuing the public hearing to a future date or by leaving the record open for at least 7 days to admit only that specific additional written evidence or testimony. If the record is left open for the additional written evidence or testimony, any participant may file a written request for an opportunity to respond to new evidence submitted during the period the record was left open. If such a request is filed, the Planning Commission shall reopen the record to allow any person to raise new issues which relate to the new evidence, testimony, or criteria for decision making. As a final note, if you are going to testify tonight, please state your name and address for the record so that we can get you properly recorded into the record for tonight's hearing. And before I open the public hearing, I would like to ask if any members of the commission have any ex parte contact or bias to declare or any conflict of interest. Anyone? No? Okay. And I think with that, we will go ahead and open the public hearing for case file LU-0018-2020, Sandy Rim subdivision. This is a type 3 hearing, and the Planning Commission will be the decision-making body for this application this evening. And with that, we will open the public record. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners and those in attendance. My name again is Chris Damien. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Troutdale. And this is land use case file LU-018-2020, also known as the Sandy Rim subdivision application. As the Chair indicated, this is a type 3 quasi-judicial procedure, and a decision can be rendered tonight. For those of you at home, just please a quick check, give me a thumbs up if you can see the presentation. Excellent, great, thank you. Okay, so let's dive into it. This is a property that is located on the north end of Hall Lane. It's a little over an acre in size. This is in the southeast portion of the city. If you are coming off Stark Street, which is on the left of the image there, you'll maybe recognize that turn. There is Troutdale Road, which is kind of a private drive, which kind of connects into Stark at the curve there. But you actually enter the neighborhood in through 28th there, and then Hall Lane, that north-south street is going up north and south there. So this is at the end of a cul-de-sac, and you'll see an image here which kind of shows it. It's kind of an interesting property to consider a subdivision for. We don't come across this type too often. The land use designation is low-density residential. That should read LDR, not LI. That was a typo. Apologies for that. Zoning district is R7, single-family residential, which is the zoning district for the neighborhood immediately to the south. So the same zoning district. The surrounding property to the east is actually unincorporated. There is a larger residential property, but it's largely vacant and significantly downhill from this site. On the south is a single-family detached neighborhood, Troutdale Acres. On the north side is some vacant property, as well as on the northwest side, a cul-de-sac neighborhood, similar low-density detached residential. And on the west, you have some larger lots, but they again are single-family detached residential. It should be noted that there is some improvement, or maybe some expansion of improvement from one of the properties to the west onto the property itself, and that would have to be removed when development were to occur, or if development were to occur. One moment, Mr. Chair, I think we lost one of our commissioners. Let me bring him back in. All right, hopefully Mr. Wittrin is back in the meeting. Sorry, I don't know what happened there, but you're back in. All right, this is the image from the street looking north, from the cul-de-sac at Hall Lane. As you can see, you can kind of see evidence of the houses to the left and to the right, or the basketball net there. The gate, which basically ends the street there because it's unimproved. You see the sidewalk itself ends. The gate indicates there's a small sign which the city usually puts on these types of areas, which says there is the potential for future development or future public improvement on the street. What is different in this case as opposed to a lot of the other cases is there is no new streets effectively being requested here. It's really the completion of the cul-de-sac, of the edge of the cul-de-sac and the corresponding public improvements there. So this is not a case where you are connecting a street or what was a cul-de-sac into another street. This will remain a cul-de-sac. A couple of the images come from the applicants and their surveyors who are on the call tonight and are available to clarify any design considerations here. So you see the property here, and the area shaded in yellow indicates one of our overlay districts. This is the vegetation corridor and slope overlay. You are dealing with some very, very significant slope challenges on this property. On the southwest corner, it may be difficult to see. The elevation is about 220 feet. On the northeast corner, it's already 140 feet. And remember, this is a property a little bit over an acre in size. So it's a pretty significant grade in this location, which means the developable area on this property is already greatly constrained. When we take out that and we consider the other standards, effectively 4 is the number that you arrive at as far as the potential lots that can be developed based on the zoning district requirements. Now again, this is an R7 zoning district, so usually you require to have a minimum lot size of 7,000 square feet. The lots that are being proposed here are actually closer to 15,000 on average. One of them is actually closer to 16,000. But in doing so, if you take into account where that VECO, where that overlay is, where it really trying to prohibit or restrict development as much as you can, the true developable areas on these lots are a lot smaller and more in line with what the zoning district calls for. So here is the potential lot partition. It does meet the standards, including the frontage requirements along the cul-de-sac, where they have to have a 20-foot basic frontage. And here is a hypothetical layout, and I stress the word hypothetical here because what the commission is approving tonight is not house footprints or locations. So this plan is showing a hypothetical of how housing could fit on here. But we wanted to show you this because it also indicates really the developable area on these properties. So you can see this in that light shaded color, what the true developable area is. It also shows the connection of where potential driveways off the cul-de-sac and onto the property would lie, and that explains kind of the layout that you see here. Again, if there are questions about the specific design approach that they use, again, the applicant can probably specify, but this is basically kind of the idea. And again, I stress that the houses you see here, the footprints of these houses are speculative. They are not necessarily final. There's a note actually on this drawing that says that. And if you approve this application tonight, you are not approving the location or the size of the homes. You would be approving conditionally the locations of the property lines, what you see here on the other graphic here as they relate to the overlay. With that, I'm going to pause real quick just to make sure there are any questions on that, and I'll bring up the full screen back here in a moment.
Commissioner Glanz.
As we were looking at that map, the properties to the left, which I believe would be the west, there's two lots, 8706 and 8601. How is access to those properties? How would they get access?
There is an access easement that's afforded to those properties from another direction. I'll try to pull up the map to clarify that. While the applicant takes testimony, and I can provide that in the meeting, but there is access to those properties.
Thank you.
Any other? Commissioner Prickett, put your hand up. Okay. Okay.
We'll continue back onto the presentation, and I'll have another chance for folks to ask questions. Again, just wanted to make sure that was clarified. So again, what is being requested tonight is a subdivision. It's a 4-lot subdivision. We call it also a tentative plat because remember with subdivisions, when Planning Commission approves them, it is not the final thing. They do not run off to the county surveyor and then record the subdivision the next day. The next step is effectively subdivision infrastructure that has to take place. Public improvements would have to be built. And in this case, the public improvements are effectively completing that full grade of the cul-de-sac as well as the sidewalks and the approaches and so forth that allow the houses to the future homes to be served. So that has to occur, and then upon effectively build out of that, or just shy of build out with a bond, then the applicant can request a final plat. So again, you're approving the tentative plat, then the applicants request a final plat, which is handled by the city staff. And as long as everything is built according to plan and they haven't changed effectively the lot's dimensions or characteristics, we sign off on the plats, they take it to the county, and they get it recorded. So tonight's action is basically enabling them to move forward on construction and it's enabling them to get closer to recording the plat. What is not being requested tonight is a zoning change, so the anticipated zoning that has always been expected for this property remains the same, meaning the density requirements do not change. There's no specific residential construction, so there's no building permits that are being applied for or that could be applied for some time. There's no new streets, there's no street connectivity, it's really just filling that loop on the cul-de-sac, literally closing the loop. There are applicable criteria that we look at as a staff and as review entities to look at. We have the development code and certain chapters you see there on the left. Chapter 7, which is the second from the bottom on that bullet point list, is where we pull our decision criteria from, and we'll cover that here momentarily. The municipal code also applies in this case, and then a few other prevailing standards from some of the other review entities. Again, it's a type 3 quasi-judicial procedure. That's what we're doing tonight. We have a public hearing. Planning Commission is the decision-making entity. There is an appeal of your decision. It would run first to City Council. If it is appealed from City Council, then it goes into the state appeal system. This has been worked on for some time. We had a pre-application meeting with the applicant and consultant on June 30th. Early October, the applicant did submit materials. Staff deemed them complete in mid-October. Sent out the notice of applications to surrounding properties on the 23rd. And tonight is your public hearing. If approved, the next step, again, the applicant would be able to apply for the subdivision construction permit to begin work on that, and then ultimately apply for a final plat once that improvement work has been completed. So as far as who has provided or who was notified and who potentially provided comments, agency comments were sent out to planning, public works, discussion fire, multiple land use planning. TriMet got it. I didn't expect why we got sent it, but they got it sent anyway. Better safe than sorry, I suppose. Public comments were received. Nothing written formally. We did have several conversations with some neighbors who did reserve the right to contact us and ask some questions about the application, and we are maybe expecting some oral testimony tonight from one or more from them. The summary of the comments from the agencies, basically the ones who responded, which were planning and public works, indicated that the subdivision could be approved with conditions. On a general analysis of this site, shifting to that, there are benefits to it. It kind of fulfills, this application fulfills basic lot dimensional standards. It does not intend to develop within DECO. It is doing its best to really avoid constraints, which is what's encouraged by the code. Again, potential house footprints are suggesting that some of the larger trees that are on the site can actually be saved or worked around, and that's going to be one of the conditions of approval that is suggested by staff. And similar sized lots to the surrounding neighborhood, while the lots are larger, effectively the densities are roughly the same as far as what this application is pursuing. The drawbacks on it, the driveway angles are a little tight and a little strange, but they are technically meeting the minimum standards of the code. So from a code perspective, they are okay. It just will seem a little odd, perhaps, when it's constructed. Another concern potentially might be the potential for loss of views depending on future development of homes or buildings. But keep in mind the general sloping nature downhill of this property. Elevation can mitigate it to a degree, but you know there are also no view shed easements recorded for the benefit of properties to the south or the west. So just keep that in mind as well. So at the end, staff is recommending approval with conditions. We do have conditions that we've placed for planning. These are the conditions, the ones that are potentially unique, or I guess more site-specific. We are suggesting that the trees, the 24-inch and 36-inch caliber trees on Lot 1 should remain standing during subdivision construction and be protected, and that we would request tree removal permits in case the developer wanted to, or home builder wanted to remove them prior to residential construction. And a note, again, tentative plats do have a shelf life. They do expire after 2 years unless there's been significant movement, although all indications suggest this will be moved on if approved pretty quickly. Public Works has several standard conditions of approval that they usually put in. Most importantly, erosion control, particularly on this type of sloping site, will be very much looked at. But again, Public Works' main conditions and comments come during the construction permit phase, which would occur, again, if this is approved here at this point. I should note that the city did not receive any comments from Gresham Fire. No particular reason as to why or how, but although normally you're accustomed, the Planning Commission is accustomed to seeing fire comments, they were not included in the application. I'll take another break and then we'll turn to the decision criteria if there are any questions from the Planning Commission.
Questions for staff? Commissioner Clance.
I'm also wondering, is the property to it's the right on my sheet, so I'm guessing it would be the east. Is that still City of Troutdale? And if so, what is it zoned?
Are you talking about the property just off the proposed area?
I'm talking about this.
I'm sorry, can you pull that back up again, Commissioner Glenn?
Yep. This part right here.
Oh, okay, off to the right, yeah, that is actually outside of the city of Troutdale.
Okay.
So it's not incorporated, that's why Multnomah County Land Use Planning was informed of the application.
Okay.
But they too, the property owner gets notified of it.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions from the commission for staff?
I have a question for Chris.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Wilcox.
Yes, Chris, well, it's fresh in our minds. You made a reference to Gresham Fire. And on page 2, you're showing there was no response from them. I just kind of questioned whether or not they should have confirmed, having been asked or something. I would have expected something from them that showed that they, covered the area. I know there's a fire hydrant right on the far right corner, so it's, very accessible to the sites, but I would have preferred that they have at least responded in some manner, just to say, we're okay with this.
I wouldn't disagree, Captain Commissioner, but I can't write memos for them.
Yeah, they've chosen not to respond.
Commissioner Glenn,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Glenn.
Can you put up the street view again, please?
Sure, one moment.
Thank you.
This is what you were looking for?
Yep.
Yep.
So it looks like some of that's almost being used for agriculture with the corn and stuff in there now.
Are you talking about on the upper left of the image right there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that looks like a patch for growth.
And there's a lot of trees there. So. Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions for staff? Okay. Do services run down Hall?
I believe they do. We can confirm that for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious about utility easements and some of those things. We're putting the swale on every lot.
Yeah, I'll let the applicant address that, but that's part of the design approach that they're looking at.
Pardon me, Commissioner Woodville?
Yes, I've read in here, each lot will have a swale, and one of them is a little lower.
Yeah. Just seems like a lot. Did the NSA comment at all?
No,
Okay.
but it's not within their jurisdiction.
No.
It's not adjacent to their jurisdiction either.
Right, but they usually will chime in if there's any type of view. Okay. And I would also say I think their engineer should get a gold star. Okay.
Okay.
Pretty impressive. Okay.
So just wrapping up on the staff presentation, just a reminder for the planning commissioners, unlike, some of the other applications you see where there may be 3 or 4 or 5 decision criteria, there are several more that are baked into the subdivision. In the interest of time, I didn't want to cover all of them unless there was a desire for us to do so, but effectively a reminder that they are in your packet on the, you have the paper packet on the orange sheet. Those are going to be the decision criteria that you would have to evaluate this application. Staff finds substantial conformance with this application. And then there are a couple of provisions that are just frankly not applicable. And the applicant also, in their narrative, did a pretty thorough job of how they intended to respond to the decision criteria. So you can use that as reference within their narrative. But generally, staff has a level of comfort with this application. We feel that they have done a reasonable and the best job they can to avoid developing in sensitive areas. And as mentioned earlier, recommend approval with that. We'll turn it over to any final questions or deferral.
Okay, final questions for staff?
Are you going to let us know on access to those lots?
Yeah, well, while the applicant talks, I'll
Yeah.
just confirm that we are another mapping service I have to look at.
Okay, at
Go
this
ahead.
time, we would like to, pardon me?
Sorry, Paul.
I
Oh, I'm
had
sorry, Commissioner.
one more comment or question.
Sure.
Under conditions of approval, you have public improvements shall be completed prior to the issuance of building permits. And then in your engineering division report on page 2, you have contrarily, at the very top of the page, contrarily, public sidewalks and driveway approaches, though public, are typically deferred to the home building phase as a best practice, as they may incur damage during home building. And that exemption makes perfect sense to me, but I'd like to see that exemption included in the conditions of approval. You know, if you're going to have an exemption,
And where did that come from? What you just read?
page 2 under the engineering report. Right, that's it, what you've highlighted.
So kind of in response, what we would say is that it's not uncommon for driveways or alleys to be constructed, even though they're ultimately not public infrastructure as part of that. So really that gets discussed during the infrastructure and the subdivision construction phase for the permit, as far as what is truly being able to be done in this case, or whether or not that can be phased. That's really at the discretion of public works and the agreement with the contractors. But it's not uncommon. I mean, we had a Lancaster Park in the subdivision, they put in alleys along with their public street at the same time. It makes sense for them to do that. That's a recent example.
Any other questions? All right. At this time, we would like to ask the applicant to speak. There he is. Sir, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, yeah. You gotta unmute yourself. Excuse me. Good evening,
There we go.
commissioners. I'm the applicant, but at this point I would defer to my engineer, Ray Moore, to answer any of your questions regarding engineering. And to the commissioner,
Okay. Hang on
Sorry?
1 second. Can I get you to put your, state your name and address for the record, please?
Sure, my name is Tom Orth. My address is 26951 Southeast Forester Road in Boring, 97009. To the commissioner who said the engineer deserves a gold star, I just got an invoice. Go ahead, Ray.
Hi, good evening. Yeah, Tom, the price doubled there, so.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So good evening, everybody. Again, for the record, my name is Ray Moore. I'm with All County Surveyors and Planners, P.O. Box 955, Sandy, Oregon. And we've been working with Tom for 20 years and in the city of Troutdale for just as long as well. So first of all, I'd like to just thank staff. We kind of went around and around with this project, trying to maximize lots, but then, you know, when it was all said and done, you know, trying to cram more lots in there wasn't the best suited for this site. it kind of boiled down to 4 lots, seemed reasonable. It fit in well with the neighborhood, and we avoided the steep slopes. We saved a couple trees. We were able to meet all the code criteria. One of the challenges for this site was we are limited with how much frontage we have. And we just barely have enough to provide adequate frontage for each of the lots. And I think, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, minimum frontage is 20 feet. So we sort of divided up what was remaining, laid out lot lines. And it looked kind of funky to begin with, but we did look at some real world footprints, driveways, and how will this thing function? I don't want to plat anything that's not going to be buildable in the future. So we wanted to make sure that it was buildable. Tom Orth is going to be building them, so he's looked at these plans and looked at the driveways, and he feels that it will be fine. Yeah, with that said, I don't have a lot to add. Chris's presentation was great. Again, thank you. We are doing some minor extensions. Also, I think somebody asked if there are utilities in the street. Yes, there's public sanitary sewer, water, and storm in the street. One of our exhibits, I think it's sheet 2 or 3, we do show how we're going to extend the sanitary sewer. We have to extend it a few feet to the end and then add some laterals off the end of the new sewer line. Water is there. Again, like somebody mentioned, there is a hydrant right at the end. We are just having to add some water services. And then as far as the street improvements, it's just extending the curb kind of around the arc of the remaining bulb. And yeah, the sidewalks will get built, the sidewalks and the driveways at the time of home construction. So all the public utilities will be extended to the new lots prior to the plat being recorded. And then when the homes are built, the sidewalks will be built in the driveways at that point. So I guess, I'd be happy to answer any questions at this point, but I think it's fairly straightforward. We meet the code, we avoid the steep slopes, the lots fit in well with the neighborhood. So, overall, I think it's a good development and will be an asset to the city of Troutdale.
Question for the applicant, Commissioner Prickett, please.
The steep slope area, is there a way that's going to be protected so it doesn't erode away, or the people that buy the lots do not degrade that slope so it does slope away during a heavy rainstorm?
Right, that's a very good question. It was one of my concerns to begin with too. So what we do is we hired a geotech, and the geotech did a study, and he also did infiltration testing. And this may dovetail into somebody else's question, what are we doing with the stormwater? So the stormwater on the street is collected and it drains to the existing catch basins built into the street. There's a detention manhole, a detention tank containing all the on-site public water. Now the private homes, the roof water, we've sized rain gardens that will be basically in the backyards. And we had the same geotech do infiltration testing out there. We take his infiltration rates and we cut it in half, and we size this facility for the rooftops. And based on the houses that I picked, we've already kind of pre-sized to make sure there's enough room. And so, the normal storm event under 10-year event will pretty much store the water in the basin, infiltrate it into the ground. And so my question to the geotech was, is that going to destabilize the downslope, having that water there and infiltrating into the ground? Luckily, we did hit some fairly decent infiltration rates, and the geotech is confident that this will not cause any erosion. Now, in the event of a 100-year event where this facility isn't sized for that, it will overflow and continue to sheet down north and east down the hillside, much like the water flows over the hillside now. So, we've hired the right professionals to make sure that's not going to happen.
Also, how is it going to prevent the people that buy the property from changing that?
Sure, and just like it is now, the city of Troutdale has a pretty stringent code on what you can and can't do within those areas. So if a homeowner wants to go in there and, hey, I'm going to put a bunch of fill in here and build a shed in my, down over this slope, well, the city's code protects that slope from that happening. And that comes into code enforcement and other issues. So it is already protected under the current code.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Glantz?
Just curious, are you going to build these as specs or customs?
So that's going to be a question for Tom, and I don't know if he's prepared to answer that or.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, Tom, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I have a friend of mine, his intends to build for his daughter there. And we're unresolved as to the final three. There may be another family member of his in there too. But at this point, that's our plan.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Ramone, I believe.
Sure, if I did was a mistake, but I have actually a belated statement here. My apologies to you because I think that as a matter of transparency and disclosure, now that Mr. Horth has spoken, I have indeed knowledge of Mr. Horth and his work. I have collaborated with Mr. Horth on the planning commission of the city of Gresham. He's a member, or was a member of the planning commission. I was obviously the planner for the city. So my apologies. I didn't recognize the name initially when he spoke, of course. So
I recognized your face, John Paul.
Tom, my apologies. I just saw Tom. I didn't even worry about it.
No worries. It's the design commission, not the planning commission.
I'm sorry. You're right. Absolutely right. It's the design commission. So that tells you already. It feels more like Monday morning. So I think as a matter of disclosure and transparency that there is in this knowledge of Mr. Horth working.
Okay. And do you feel that that will influence your decision this evening in any way?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair?
Do you feel it will influence your decision this evening in any way?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yes.
Okay. Any challenges for Commissioner Ramone? No? Okay, great. Okay, did you have any other questions, sir?
No, Mr. Chair, no questions.
Okay. All right.
Chair Stephenson,
Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Wilcox?
I have a couple of questions for the applicant. On the responses on page 15, talking about a couple of curb cuts for the driveways. I realize there's going to be shared driveways, but I'm just curious, is there going to be a raised curb between the two curb cuts, or it'll just be one wide open cut the entire width of the cul-de-sac?
I'm going to pull up the plan here real quick if I can share my screen.
Yeah, give me one moment. Ray, let me see if I can, you got it, I think, yep,
Okay, you can see the map.
we can.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to zoom in here. And I think I understand what you're asking, but let's zoom in a little bit, see if the oh yeah, you can kind of see it. So the driveway drop right here is going to serve 2 lots, and then this driveway drop will serve 2 lots. And I think your question is, well, what happens from the throat of this driveway up to the top and then back down? So typically that curb bumps back up about 6 inches from the throat up to here and then back down. If you can see my cursor, was that your question?
My question was basically, is there going to be any raised curb between the two driveways?
It will. It'll go from 0 and up to 6 inches and then back down to 0, just in a short section there.
Okay, that answers that question. My other one is a little more challenging, I think. It's on the page 2 of the engineering report from the city. Under sanitary sewer, there's a reference to a negative grade, and there's really no reference to how that's going to be addressed. Because I know Eagle Ridge Apartments had an issue with that, and they ended up having to put in a pump station, which I don't think is realistic for you guys.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with that. I designed that project, Eagle Ridge, and we designed the private pump station. I can't tell you what the negative grade is on that sheet, but we have went out and surveyed it, and we've tied. You can see my manhole or my cursor here on this manhole. We've tied that manhole, and we do have positive grade south flowing out of that existing manhole. And so we are going to extend a new sewer with positive grade up to a new manhole. new sewer this way with positive grade and positive grade on the lateral. So all of this will flow. Maybe what they were referring to was, I think I know now, it's lot 4. Lot 4 slopes away from the street. So the sewer laterals will be at about 196.5. So if you look at the contours, 196.5 is right in here. So in other words, that sewer with daylight. And depending on the finished floor of this house, that one house may need a grinder pump to pump up to that new gravity sewer lateral. So Tom's aware of that, and I think that's the only house. This one right here on lot 3, the lateral's at 196, and the lowest grade's like 198. So I think we'll be able to get gravity to that one. The rest of these, it's all uphill, so they'll be, easily can get gravity. So it's just that lot 4 that will probably need a grinder pump.
Okay, because that's the one they refer to in the text. It says lot 4 of the proposed site is approximately 10 feet lower than the street grade.
Correct, yeah, and it slopes away.
Yes, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Okay, I just have one. It was mentioned that there are some improvements done on the property that you'll be working on, and I was just wondering what would be involved with removing those?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat?
There,
There's some, it was mentioned in the staff report that there were some improvements done to one of the parcels that you would be removing.
Okay.
On lot 1, I think, right? That's what, yeah.
It's probably this. If you can see the map with my cursor, the current owner, made some improvements out here. There was a shed built and a little retaining wall and some gravel. So those existing improvements will be removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone wishing to testify as a proponent to the application? Okay, so far so good. Okay, anyone wishing to testify as an opponent to the application? Any neutral parties wishing to testify this evening? I think that's it.
Hello.
There you go. Good evening.
Hi. Thank you so much. My name's Julie Dawn, and I live on Hall Lane. Our address is 3164 Southeast Hall Lane. And basically, I just kind of wanted to be educated, like kind of have a firsthand view of kind of like what's going to happen. My husband and I've lived in Troutdale since 1993, and we have 2 homes here, and we're heavily connected. We love Troutdale, and we love the community. And basically we're excited because we know that Tom builds a beautiful home. And I guess I have a couple of concerns. Just I'm real visual, and so I just kind of would like to kind of have an idea of what it's going to look like if, when it's all said and done. Basically, we're hoping that it's not going to be crowded, like just like a lot of homes. And we know that it will be aesthetically pleasing, because like I said, I know he builds a quality, beautiful home. And we're just wondering, like, there's 3 houses on the east side of Hall. And we're like the house on the end next to the vacant lot. And those 3 homes that are on Hall on the east side, we all kind of share, we all have like a really pretty view, you know, off the back that faces the east. And so all of our decks are really private, which is really nice. Yeah, so like the 3 houses, they're on the east side of the road. And so really like our hope is that, you know, that our deck will remain somewhat private, that all 3 of us kind of on that east side of Hall have like a private deck, and we've all kind of enjoyed that. And so we're just kind of hoping for that to continue. And then basically we were just, yeah, that's basically it, you know, like we don't want to, we're not here to ruffle any feathers or anything. And just wanted to kind of find out what the plan is. And I'm curious, like, as far as the driveways go, like kind of like the layout of it, it seems a little like congested, a little kind of like it's going to be a little funky. So I'm just kind of wondering about that, like clarification maybe on that.
And were there any other questions that didn't get answered?
And then I was wondering, are those homes going to be part of the HOA is what I was kind of wondering. And if they're not, I'm just kind of curious, like why or why not?
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not our subdivision.
Any other neutral parties wishing to testify?
Turn your mute on.
Okay.
Before the applicant responds, I just wanted to offer 2 more little bits of notes in response to Commissioner Lance.
Okay.
Just for additional context, and this was the question from Commissioner Lance about access of those adjacent properties. So pulling up the map here, those properties are served off Sandy Dell Road. There is a private drive that connects both of them through here, so they would not be affected for access point of view. The other thing which I should have mentioned, and I want to give kudos and accolades to our staff, even though I presented, a lot of the prep work was done by Arini and by Amber, and I wanted to give thanks to them. I just didn't get to do that earlier, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Did the applicant want to respond to her question? Okay. Please do, Mr. Moore.
Hi, again, for the record, Ray Moore. Can I share my screen one more time here?
It's all yours, Ray.
Okay. To respond to a good question Julie had, you know, what is this going to look like? I know a lot of people have a hard time visualizing maps, but a good example would be, you know, the lot she's on, lot 9, is probably anywhere from 65 to 70 feet wide. And so for, you know, if you take a look at the 4 new lots, the 2 center ones we made a little wider because they were so constrained with the steep slope. So those 2 lots are 77 feet wide, and the lot on the far west is 65 feet wide. The far east is 73 feet wide. So as far as the lot widths, they're matching, you know, pretty close, and if not wider than lot 9, where Julie lives. So, you know, it does seem maybe crowded because we have such limited frontage, but I think when they get built and you can see the space between the homes and the size of the homes, it'll fit right in with what's out there now. So I don't think that's really going to be a concern. She mentioned they have a nice private deck off their east side. That won't be affected by this development. These new homes will have nice private decks off their north side, and they won't look into each other, right? So that was a concern there. Her last, she mentioned that an HOA. So no, this is not part of any existing HOA. And Julie, I think that was your last question. So
Yeah, that was it.
okay.
Just out of curiosity, like, is it possible to do 3 homes instead of 4, or how does that, just like kind of where that, if that was done, would that change kind of the layout of the driveways being kind of funky in there, or less crowded?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So if you can see my screen, the project information, we have to meet city code criteria, and it's based on the 7,000 square foot lot and gross area and right-of-way dedication and all this and that. It boils down to the maximum density analysis was 5.4 lots. So the maximum density is 5 lots. The minimum density is based on 80% of that. So that 5 times 0.8 is 4 lots. So we are at the minimum density right now. So we couldn't even do 3 lots if we wanted to without, I'm not even sure Chris could answer this question, if you could even get a variance to having, less than minimum density. So we're
No, the only thing you could do is rezone the property to a zoning district that allows larger lots. In that case, which is a more intense process. But yes, Mr. Moore's comments, they've achieved the minimum density, so you can fall the city's standard for that concern perhaps.
Okay. All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So one question I have is, so like we're there on the right, on the end is where our home is at. So what is that gonna, like, is that 4th home? I can't remember if that was lot number 4 in that little plat. Is that 4th home they're all gonna kind of just be facing like our homes? Is that kind of what I'm understanding, or?
Hypothetical.
And like, kind of like, how far back is that house gonna start, is, I guess.
Okay, so what we're looking at tonight is we're looking at the project and the zoning and what necessarily will work on these lots from a development code standpoint. So although we have something in front of us that shows where a house would be placed on the lot, that may not necessarily be the size of the home or the exact position of the home when it goes in.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. Tom, please.
Yeah, I would just add to the conversation that when we looked at the property preliminarily, the previous applicant and the staff report supporting, I think they were trying for 6 lots in this same piece of property, and recognizing that 6 lots, 6 driveways coming onto that street wouldn't have been fair to anybody in the neighborhood or the cul-de-sac. And the maximum density per raised calculation is 5. So in theory, we could try for 5 lots, but I'm not about that. I'm about trying to make it work for everybody and have it be a nice community for everybody, not maximize the profit and the lots for myself. So that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Orr.
We appreciate that, Tom. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, and if there isn't anything else, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
I move we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion. What, pardon me, sir?
No.
Do you want it, or you, okay. We have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Public hearing is closed. All right. Any questions, comments?
Well, I think this is one of the better presentations I've seen since I've been on the commission. It's thorough, and all the questions I had were answered by other people answering questions, so I'm pleased with what I see.
Yeah, I really appreciate that we didn't have some kind of odd configuration and that it was just straightforward and made good use of the land.
I concur. I think it was a well thought out and well planned. And it wasn't all I like the way they laid it out, and I like the way they gave us all the information we needed to make a decision.
It's
I
refreshing.
would just say I would give them, pardon me?
Go ahead.
I would just say I'd give them an A for creative development. Very nicely done.
And I can't remember the last time we had a minimum density come in.
No, I haven't. It's been a long time.
2 thumbs up.
Okay. Well, any other discussion? You guys seem to like this. Want conditions first? Fine.
Whatever you want to do.
Okay. So we'll need to have a motion for conditions and a motion for final order and decision, whichever order you want to do those, that's fine.
I move that we approve the conditions of approval for file number LU 0018-2020 as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve conditions of approval for case file LU 0018-2020 Sandy Ridge subdivision. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. And could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Wittrin,
Yes.
Commissioner Wadilla,
Yes?
Commissioner Mamone,
Yes.
Commissioner Prickett,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Yes.
Chair Stephenson,
Yes.
Commissioner Glantz.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, that passes. Okay, and now another motion, if you would.
I move that we approve the findings of fact as written for case file LU 0018-2020.
Second.
Second.
Okay. A motion by Commissioner Prickett, second by Commissioner Whitman. Okay, for approval of findings of fact and final order for case file LU 0018-2020 Sandy Ridge subdivision. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, Ms. Shackelford.
Commissioner Wittrin,
Yes.
Commissioner Wadilla,
Yes.
Commissioner Mamone,
Yes.
Commissioner Prickett,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Yes.
Chair Stephenson,
Yes.
Commissioner Glantz.
Yes.
Okay. That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you for your support and your time this evening.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Next up.
All right. Well, I've got some good news, maybe, I guess, good news and bad news, as I told the commissioners who are here in the room tonight. The good news is your meeting is going to be substantially shorter than maybe you were bargaining for. Bad news is the topic that is going to be discussed is going to be deferred to your next meeting. The topic that we were going to be talking about was the Main Streets on Halsey Code Audit Project. And included in your packet was a one-page memo basically explaining or reminding you kind of what the Main Street on Halsey project was. Again, looking at a two-phase project, the opportunity site analysis, which the commission got to hear about earlier this spring. And then the second part was going to be a code audit, which would have been a more intense and technical discussion. So you are relieved from that duty tonight to look through that information because the consultant hasn't been able to finalize that because of this additional feedback they need to receive. But you can expect to have it for December. When you do have it for December, I am expecting to include information in your packet so you'll be able to look at and review that ahead of time, which you were not afforded to this time around. So be prepared to discuss it in December. We do also, I believe, have a hearing scheduled for December, so it'll be a two-part meeting. And I'm sorry we didn't get to it tonight, but again, a shorter meeting for you all as a result.
And when we had the three cities planning commission meetings where the consultant was discussing their plans, they mentioned coming back to the planning commission with model code. Are we talking about any model code coming out of this?
This would include some ideas for model code and potentially that as a deliverable, but again, that does not compel or require the city to adopt the model code. It's basically the fulfillment of the work plan, which was to develop a model code.
Right. So if there is a model code, is that going to come in the form of a red line? Or will that come later?
That is still to be determined. That's why I don't have a deliverable yet, so I don't know what that would exactly look like. But I believe what they've done is a pretty thorough comb over of the particular zoning districts they wanted to look at and make insertions in, I believe, the town center overlay district potentially for some suggested ideas they have.
Okay.
So I don't know if it'll be quite a red line, but it'll certainly be, you'll definitely have a memo that will make the code section references. That I know will come. But if a red line can be produced, then we would certainly show it to you as a suggested thing. And again, it's not binding that the city has to adopt it just because it was part of the planning effort. It's merely suggestions based on feedback they've received and information that they've researched.
I'm just guessing, given Fairview with Village Troutdale, and with the challenges that we have here, ours is probably going to be the piece that comes under the most scrutiny.
I wouldn't necessarily say that. Well, I mean, all the cities have in the consultant's mind, or at least in looking at it as an outsider, some potential things that they can amend in their code to make things potentially more developable friendly, shall we say, or more conducive to the type of development that people say they want to have. Mm-hmm. Whether or not that's actually reflected ultimately in the built environment or if it's economically feasible, that's the issue, and that's part of the reason they put this whole study together and why they included the opportunity site analysis with it too. And oftentimes there's that big delta between what you want and what can actually be built, and then what does that do to your built environment.
And is part of this, since this was a Metro project, do they go back to Metro and make suggestions to Metro?
No.
Are you sure?
That seems like it'd be a really big component.
I mean, Metro, it's a Metro-funded project, but it is done in fulfillment of the 2040 growth strategy.
Right.
Why it's called a 2040 grant. And the 2040 concept, remember, identified Halsey Streets as a corridor in there. Basically, we got Metro funding because it's a designated corridor by Metro that planning should take place, or corridor-based planning should take place. It doesn't compel or bind the city to go with any potential recommendation that comes out of it, nor should it give Metro a stick to hammer over any jurisdiction that may not want to adopt some or all of any recommendations.
Well, I wasn't thinking more of a stick. I was thinking more of if there's a barrier to development, that has been an edict that's come down from the system. Would this be a way to let them know that this could be a potential issue?
Yeah, I wouldn't read too much into their potential edicts that could come from any effort on this. I think they'd be interested in learning what the outcomes are, but I don't think it can affect what they compel each community to do.
Okay,
I don't get that impression anyway.
so much for hope. Okay,
A question?
all right.
Was
Yes,
that,
Commissioner Glenn?
was that meeting recorded, that three-city meeting?
Yes.
I would presume so. We weren't technically the host of it, so we'd have to double check with it.
I'd love to look back at some of that.
I'm sure it was.
Sure, but I would suspect it would.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it for this particular item. We can move on to the department.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay. Couple of quick notes. You may see some additional guests on the call tonight, and this is no accident. We had a bunch of guests last month, and we have some more guests. These are students largely from the University of Oregon's planning program. They are taking courses this fall, and this is tied with the university's Sustainable City Year program in partnership with the city for this academic year. So we want to thank all of them for joining us tonight. Hopefully we didn't bore you too much to tears. It's rare to see a planning commission be so enthusiastic about a particular application, but as you saw, the applicant did a really good job with explaining themselves, presenting themselves. Not every application is quite like that, so don't get an impression that we're rubber stampers here. But thank you for attending, and I guess I would open it up to any of the students in case you all wanted to say something or had any questions for the Planning Commission.
Anyone? Oh. Go ahead, sir.
I would just say thank you for allowing us to join your space and kind of observe this process in a real world application because it's very valuable us to see not only the city that we're partnering with, but just see the process in general. So we appreciate you allowing us into that space.
You are quite welcome. We appreciate having you this evening.
Okay. In other kind of warm and fuzzy news, I have something to share with you right here too.
Here it comes.
And that is Irini's new son.
Nice.
So Irini and Michael welcomed Rio into the world on last week, on Monday the 9th, I think it was. And 8 pounds, 6 ounces, happy, healthy, and pleased and surprised, I'm sure the parents are. But she sends her greetings, and we'll be happy to send any that you guys have for her as well.
Beautiful.
If you'd like to. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Of course. Yep. She misses work already, except for maybe floodplain management. I don't think she misses that too much. A couple of other notes for you. Again, a reminder that while your next regular Planning Commission meeting will be the third Wednesday of December, you do have another meeting coming up, and that is the rent burden meeting on Wednesday the 2nd. That is, you're going to hold that in conjunction with CAC. This is going to be a virtual meeting only. We will not have any actual physical presence in the Kellogg room for this meeting. It will start at 6 o'clock that particular evening. And we are working on a survey that will be going out to folks. We are also working on getting feedback from people who may wish to contribute to the conversation in advance. We will let people know through social media and through the website. And certainly, as you guys as stakeholders, you would be emailed that information ahead of time as far as any contributions that people can make. So you feel free to share with your friends and neighbors and so forth, but details forthcoming on that. So that's really the big news on that front. We are are working, as some of you are aware of the town center plan, we are working towards completion. No promises on the date to be completed, but we are quite near having the draft out there. And once the draft gets released, in case you have any interest in reviewing it, it will be posted online. We have an executive summary that's effectively completed and edited, but we'll have the full draft of the report out, and it will go through a couple of iterations, I'm sure, before we get the final product to the city council. Beyond that, Amber, are we forgetting anything, or do we have anything else to add from our department?
I can't think of anything.
Okay. Well, in light of the bad news from a public health front, hopefully everybody stays healthy and safe, and enjoy your Thanksgiving as best as you can. But please be mindful. And with that, we'll refer back to the commission.
Okay. Commissioner Wadilla, anything, sir?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Whitford?
Just if we can get a link to the 3-city meeting just to review it, I think that would be beneficial. I agree. That's it.
Thank you. We'll work on that.
Okay. Commissioner Mamone?
No, nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Wilcox?
Oh, nothing.
Okay. Commissioner Prickett?
I just want to say I'm going to miss Sandy and her knowledge that she brings to the commission, and the calmness that she always shows. And I know she will do that when she takes that with her when she goes to the city council. I'll be glad to watch.
Commissioner Glantz?
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. About calmness. If anybody is interested, I have a link to the trial. It's called an app, but it's not really an app, where you can track and be notified if you're exposed to COVID for the state of Oregon. So email me and I'll shoot you back the link for it. It's Apple or Android.
Okay. Anything else?
I'll save it for next month.
That's what I thought. Okay. Okay. A couple of things, mostly regarding Multnomah County. We did that Salmon Bridge on Cochrane, where we raised the road up and some things. You can lose some teeth going over that thing. It's quite bumpy.
On the bridge, or on the linkage between the bridge and the pavement?
The bridge and the pavement. Yeah. It's pretty uneven. Is there anything that can be done about that?
Sure. You just did. We reported to us, and we would kick it up to their maintenance. So
Okay.
they have that responsibility to maintain it.
And another thing, if you could pass on to Ian, is where you come across the Troutdale Bridge going east, and then you can go north or south.
Right on Jordan Road or the highway.
Okay, as you're going onto the highway, if you are going south, there's a yield, and that yield is fine. The problem is the traffic that is coming from the south going north that wishes to go over the bridge. Several cars have cut into that section, and there's been accidents. Would it be possible to maybe get an arrow
Yeah, I mean, that's,
painted there?
there's a potential for that. That's actually an ODOT facility, so at that location.
Okay.
So we would refer to their people there.
Okay.
Front. So yeah, we can pass that along. I mean, you're not the first person to say that. That's been an issue since that reconfiguration. There's been
A number of,
with traffic flow.
yeah, a number of accidents.
I wouldn't be surprised if that gets rethought or revisited real soon.
Okay. Okay. And with that, I would just like to thank everyone for their time. I'd like to thank all the students for being with us this evening. And just like to say, all of you have a great Thanksgiving and stay safe. Appreciate you. Thank you.
I move that we close the public meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, we will see you all on December 2nd. Thank you. Good evening.
Good night, thank you.